Good morning. It was not so encouraging to see the morning kick off with my beautiful digital device being used as a paper stand. James, we need to talk about digital technology. Right, so this morning I want to talk to you about artificial intelligence, and you'll hear me use words like augmented intelligence and cognitive services, and the digital device hasn't reoriented that way. Good. Great. So for us, I think our approach to artificial intelligence is one where we don't see this as something that is a monolithic device or a monolithic machine. It's actually a fabric of services, and I think that's really important because you'll hear us talk about democratization of artificial intelligence. You know, one of the things from our perspective is that technology today gives you the opportunity to access technologies that were only in the purview of the really big banks. And as we've seen over time that cloud services have come into the world, that, you know, we'll hear from Anne at Starling that has benefited, I think, from some of the changes that have happened to banking regulation, some of the attitude that's happened to changes to consumers, where we're seeing things come into the online world more than just the traditional bricks and physical presence. And I think from our point of view, we want to make sure that every organization, from the very largest to the very smallest, has access to the technologies and the services that are able to give their customers a better experience. So a couple things. What is AI? So for us, AI is not merely a new tool. It is actually about making technology different to the way it's been in the past. It needs to be available and it needs to be ubiquitous. I think, you know, when you look at things like Siri, Cortana, you know, this morning I didn't use an alarm clock to wake up. I set my Cortana Harman Kardon speaker. I shouted at her last night, set the alarm for 6 a.m. Dutifully, I was woken at 6 a.m. I was given the news and the weather. And, you know, these tools are becoming, as the slide says, ubiquitous and thoroughly through our home. We'll see a time in the not too distant future where people actually do their banking through these digital assistants. And I think the thing of what you'll hear is that the services need to be highly mobile. They need to go where the consumer is and provide them with the service that they want at the time that they want it. AI is not about replacing people. It's actually about augmenting the human capability and taking people from doing things today that they are typically overskilled for, and allowing them to do the higher skilled jobs and providing them with information at their fingertips to provide a better service. And AI is not about robots. For us, intelligence services actually are throughout life and are becoming, as we say, a positive contribution across everything that you see. So our principles of innovation in this space, we're looking to empower, sorry, I'm moving one slide at a time. I'll get this right before the end. We're looking at empowering people to bring the creativity of people together with the capability and insight and intelligence of machines. We're looking to make sure that the services that we provide are done so in a way that absolutely guarantees trust. So for Microsoft, the cognitive, the artificial intelligence, the things that we are learning to build products off that enhance the services that you're consuming. What we're not looking to do is to do what some of our friends are in the press for today, to mine your data and to make a business of it. And, you know, Mike alluded to the Cambridge Analytica situation. This is specifically where we're coming from. You know, if you see our CEO sat here talking in public, a huge amount of what he talks about is trust. The underlying fabric of this is built on consumers wanting to use the products. That means that they have to believe that they can trust you and us in providing those services. The other part of this that's really important is, and I think poor old Howard's going to cop a bit being our American colleague that's come over, but for us it's important that the services that we provide go across the community, that they reflect the people that we live and work with, reflect your customers. So at the end I'm going to point you to a video rather than have you watch the video, and you'll see how artificial intelligence is helping with inclusion, but we'll also talk about how artificial intelligence isn't creating or supporting a monoculture. It actually is going cross-cultural. So, brief history of AI. The first real experiences of AI started with MIT back nearly 50 years ago. You fast forward to, I'm just trying to spot there, 2011 with the launch of Siri, a new digital assistant. And then you come through to much more rapid advances. And in fact, Elon Musk was quoted a year or two ago talking about the speed in development of artificial intelligence. And he was saying he was surprised, and most of Silicon Valley is surprised at how fast this stuff is developing. You know, we had our own experience of artificial intelligence where we created an AI and a bot as an experiment to put out into the marketplace to see how these machines work with real interactions. The production team decided that let's go for people that are highly interactive with technology. So we created an AI called Tay, T-A-Y, .ai. The product was launched in March. It was nothing other than an experiment to see how AI and machines could learn. The target audience was 19 to 24-year-olds. And in 2020 hindsight, I think everybody probably thought, what the heck could go wrong with that? Within a couple of days, that AI had been trained by 19 to 24-year-olds to act in a way that was not exactly reflective of our culture. It was quite rude and came up with some suggestions that perhaps none of us in the room would like to hear. So the AI was pulled from the marketplace. The team, it was really important actually for us. The team, I think, were quite concerned about having a product go into the market, get some rather negative press, and very quickly get pulled. Our CEO actually turned around and said, guys, you've done some amazing work. You recognize the problem that you saw quickly. That's fantastic. Now I'm going to encourage you to go away, work on it again, and get it out in the marketplace as quickly as you can with some controls put in place. Now, we launched the follow-up to Tay in December. I think that's probably 6 or 7 months later. And Zoe AI went into the market and again did exactly what we wanted. I think the point I'm making there is that when it comes to AI and these products, they're iterating very fast. And that as you in financial services are putting these products into the marketplace, I encourage you to be patient and to learn from the experience. We actually one of the things about the way we provide artificial intelligence services is they're a consume-as-you-go model. You're not having to spend 5, 10 million pounds, dollars on investing in an infrastructure that may or may not work. You're actually consuming pence per transaction and getting the opportunity to really see how they work in your business. And the concept of minimal viable product, I think, is really important when you're looking at an innovative product like this. So, augmented intelligence, and this is why we talk about a fabric, it's not simply analytics. It's important to understand that. Banks have been working with analytics for many, many years. What this is actually bringing a whole different set of capabilities to enhance analytics and to put the knowledge that you're learning and the machines are learning into your hands and the hands of your consumers in a way that works for you. Whoops. That one went forward, mine went back. Apologies for that. So, to understand what it is from our perspective, it's the ability to see, to recognise faces, and when you're looking at it, not only to recognise faces, but to recognise attributes of faces. We have demos in some of our offices that's facial recognition that will, as you walk past, it will talk to you about the sentiment of the people that are standing in a sample. On bad mornings, it'll tell you how old you are. Sometimes it varies a bit depending on how bad the morning's been. It will hear things that are being said and take that information and actually reprocess it into a way that suits your consumers. So you can have somebody, one of the things I'll talk about in a bit is the translation capability. We have now the ability in, I'm trying to remember, it's about 30 languages to actually translate from the spoken word into text or into another language in real time, in parity with what a human translator is capable of. It's about talking to you, so it's about taking text on a page and then translating that text into, again, a voice for you, or into, as voice, but into another language as well. And then lastly, it's about actually understanding a context. So, you know, seeing the video I'm going to point you towards, seeing a chap on a skateboard in a park is quite complex information. You know, when you look at that video and you start thinking about, well, how might that work in a branch? You know, actually having the capability to recognize how someone's responding to marketing material, or how someone's responding to one of your colleagues to try and improve the way the customer is interacting with you. So, some of the things that we're seeing. Digital and branch experiences emerging. And, you know, I think there's plenty of statistics around at the moment, but I think one of the things that we're seeing is that people are adopting technology at a much faster rate than we would have thought only a couple of years ago. A Capgemini report says that people, affluent people, customers that, you know, mostly we try to retain, would actually leave their bank, a high percentage would leave their bank if they're not getting a seamless experience across the multiple channels they're dealing with. AI can help you address that. Trust is an interesting one. We talk about trust in our world, and I think our world is quite pressured by trust issues at the moment. But I think, you know, if you go back to the global financial crisis, I think the financial services industry hit an all-time low in trust measures. That's returning, and actually it's returning faster than most other industries, but it's one of those things that I think, you know, if I look at most of the UK financial services companies, when you look at their mission statements, and as they've adopted over the years, trust and being part of the community is a really big part of that. And then innovation, I think, is becoming important, and innovation for a number of reasons. I think, you know, financial services institutions have recognised where a lot of the low-hanging fruit in terms of engaging with customers, selling products, being involved in long-term value with your customers is there. But one of the things that I think has gone unnoticed to an extent has been how many customers are actually not consuming because you're making decisions based on incomplete information around them. And this has also become quite a sticking point for the government, where we've got a significant number of people in the United Kingdom that are underbanked. Many of those folks are underbanked because of very minor blemishes on their financial records. Now, a 360 view of customer, a view that's informed by more than your traditional credit scoring, might allow you to make some different decisions. So 3 paradoxes to think about. 89% of customers want to engage with bots and digital assistants. They'll engage with those medium because it's going to get them an answer that they want faster than they believe they can get it in any other way. So paradox 1. How do you increase your customer engagement without increasing your costs? And I think this is an interesting one here in the United Kingdom, where we've got a lot of financial services companies are dealing with a legacy of underinvestment, largely caused because of the outcomes of the financial crisis and some of the remediations around that. These technologies are available without a massive investment. As I said earlier at the top of the presentation, it is changing the way that you think about how do I consume a service and how do I present that service to the customer in a way that's viable for me to make the decisions I need to make in the business context I'm in. Customers are actually looking for their banking to become more convenient and for banking conversations to occur that's relevant for them and to happen at a time that suits them. So I think one of the things that we'll talk about is how artificial intelligence and the many services associated with that actually allow you to engage better with your customers without making significant capital investments. If you think about the statement that people want to engage with a virtual assistant if it gets them what they want faster, these are a number of areas where banks and other FIs should be actually looking at how do they take advantage of these services and provide a better service to the customers. The one on there that I think is quite interesting is location-based services have become a lot more important. I think, I'm amazed at the fact that now I park my car after a drive to work, hop out, go do something, and my phone has recorded where my car was last parked. It's not going to an app and doing it. It knows that I've been driving along roads. It assumes that I'm driving in my own car. And when the car stops and stops for a period of time, it assumes that that's what I've done. If you think about that in a financial services context, if you've got a virtual digital assistant at home, my wonderful Harman Kardon speaker, if I tell it to remind me that next time I'm going past a branch of my bank, that I actually need to call in because I need to make an inquiry about mortgages. And I, at my age, feel better doing that face to face. To actually walk past a branch during my busy day, trust me, with my memory, it will often slip my memory. To have the phone remind me that I want to do it and to remind me why I want to do it and what the outcome is that I'm looking for is really important. Those are no longer becoming concepts that technologists think of. They're actually becoming services that banks are offering. Bots that actually can lead you to a decision and to help your customers, but also help your colleagues make decisions, and how that bots have moved on because of the intelligence behind them from simple FAQs to actually being an intelligent service that can lead you to where you need to go. It's important in terms of customer service, it's important in terms of colleague engagement and colleague efficiency, but it's also another one where you have a crossover into actually it helps you be more compliant. You can drive a conversation or assist a conversation along a path that ensures that your colleagues are acting in a way that you would like them to. So I'd be curious to see how many people would disagree with this statement. Okay, yeah, not a lot of disagreement. I find this it's quite interesting that I think as channels have evolved and those channels are replacing traditional channels or have replaced traditional branch interactions, the interactions themselves haven't changed. They become quite transactional. There's an absence of value add in the way I engage with my bank. I'm not unhappy, but then again, I'm not happy with it. And I think, we've got an opportunity here to change that and to change the way our customers are thinking. So artificial intelligence actually gives you the opportunity to engage with a customer in a way that's informed, that every interaction you have can be very personal for that customer, whether it's on a digital channel or whether it's face-to-face. If you think about the things customers will let us do today in terms of the way we interact, the permissions they will give us, the permissions they give other people, although after this week that might come back a little bit, the customers want to give us the ability to service them better. The customers will give us the permission to engage with facial recognition in a broad environment to recognize them if there's something in it. If the customer allows you to recognize them the moment they walk into a branch environment or a financial services office environment, you're then in the position of actually knowing who they are when you engage with them. You've actually got the ability to get as much information as you have to provide them with the outcome that they want. So some ideas on how AI helps work in that space. I think I've done something with the microphone there, apologies. Obtaining a 360 view of your customer, I think, is probably one of the most important ones. Being able to know who they are to you and what they do with you at a point when they're talking to you is, well, as a consumer, it's really important to me. I recently sold my house in Australia, moved to the United Kingdom. I've been into the branch of my bank, I won't tell you which one. I've done several transactions, and I've not had one of those transactions try and sell me a product. Yet I have an amount of cash sitting with that bank equal to a house. Now, my wife's gone and taken that in her own hands and made her own decisions. But from my point of view, I think our decision, sorry. But from my point of view, it would have been really important to me to actually have somebody sit down with me and say, Wayne, that money, you may want to have other things, but let's make it work for you for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, while you look to buy a house here in the UK. In fact, I had been banking with a bank in Australia for a number of years. I banked with the same bank here for a number of years. And I recently went out and split my banking off to another service provider simply because I needed another product, and that bank hadn't done anything for me in a 10, 15-year relationship, not anything proactive. So when I came to get another product, I thought I'd try and have another experience. And I think, knowing more about me when I walked into that branch would have allowed them to actually have a conversation that I would have valued and that could have led to a better outcome for the bank, and certainly would have left me to be a more engaged customer. We spoke about how the way conversations can be enhanced and steered as driving compliant outcomes. And, I recently, or not so recently now, it's a while ago, I did a day in the life ride-along with one of our banks. And be careful, Wayne, because it probably identifies who they are. They have a financial services arm that deals with car leasing. And I actually got to watch the way their salespeople engage with their dealers and with customers. And it was quite interesting to me, having never bought a financial services car product here, that you have to sit and watch a video of 2 or 3 minutes, and that you can't buy the product without watching the video. And I think that comes from certainly a lack of trust within the regulators, and probably also senior managers wanting to make sure that they're having compliant conversations. In the future, you could actually make sure that you have an AI that will work with your colleagues or will work with your customers that will only have compliant conversations. And I think false alarms in transactions is probably one of the most frustrating things we have when it comes to credit card transactions and others. And I think one of the areas that we're using internally within Microsoft stores is we use machine learning to minimize the number of transactions that we reject at the store. And all of that is based around artificial intelligence. And our customer engagement scores have gone up because of it. Customer wants to buy something, they want to buy it. Fraudsters, you don't want to buy, you need to be able to separate the two. And in fact, that's a case study that we're working with a number of the banks on to show them how we use artificial intelligence in that context. The notion, I think, and again we've spoken about it a little bit, but branch staff, people coming into a branch, people buying, doing a transactional, doing a transaction and not getting anything out of it. I think that is largely because of the information that's been available to staff within a branch. machine learning, particularly AI, are able to actually change that. So paradox 3. When you have regulators driving competition into banking services and products, how do you actually make sure that you're able to provide a greater service in a more competitive environment? And technology is actually helping them with this. AI is able to be embedded into your products that you provide to your customers, and it provides the opportunity to provide a better service at a lower cost and to drive better customer engagement, which 3, 4, 5 years ago we would have said, hang on, that doesn't make sense. People having a machine interaction can't be better than having a people interaction. What it also does, though, is that it sets up the people-to-people interactions to be more valuable as well. I think one of the really important ones here that we're starting to see come out is this multilingual support for consumers. So, my French, growing up in Australia, my Bahasa is quite good, my Mandarin's appalling, my French is dreadful. So when I go over to the continent, I actually use a Microsoft Bing service on my phone that can translate a menu sitting in front of me and tell me what it is in English, and that's great. But the way these services are actually becoming more human-like, it will also tell me that before the snooty waiter gets to me that a velouté is a soup, Wayne, don't worry about it. Right? So I think it's about making the technology quite human in the way it's interacting with you. So from our point of view, how am I going for time, Mike? 5 minutes. And they said it couldn't be done, right? So
it's actually 7, but I'm only telling you 5, because I know you overrun.
Okay, hang on. Right, there we go. Stop doing it, Wayne. Stop pushing buttons. Okay, so from our point of view, what we're building, as we said, is this fabric, and we want it to be democratized. Microsoft's mission is to empower every person in every organization in the planet to do more. Now, from our point of view, the way we do that is to make it available. And as I said, these are services that you can interact with quite quickly, quite readily, via APIs that don't involve a long-term commitment, they don't involve a major capital expenditure. And from a business case point of view, as you're looking at how you experiment with these with your customers and your colleagues, you want to know that you can engage with it, you can test it, you can experiment, and if it doesn't work, you can shut down the initiative, not having a long-run cost to the bank, go back like we did with the AI and the 19 to 24-year-old market, what could go wrong? Reset yourselves, come back in and try again. I think this changes the way that financial services organizations are actually engaging with technology. The other thing that's really important here from our point of view is it's across all platforms, right? Microsoft is building the world's largest artificial intelligence supercomputer, and it's not the realm and the reserve of just the super banks, right? Any organization that has a need to get access to it, whether it's 3 people in a startup or whether it's 200,000 in a conventional bank, they all have access to the same technologies. On our Cortana service, we currently have 45 million users and questions that have been running. The intelligence is being baked into the applications, and it's available to be baked into the applications that you have. This is not something that is going to be set off on the side. It is actually, as we talk about it as being a fabric, it'll become a fabric within your own businesses that you can access it through any device, and you'll be able to, calling on APIs, build it into the things that make sense to you and your organizations. Here are the services that we spoke about. I'm particularly taken with the cognitive services and the language services, probably because I struggle with languages. But again, this is all very small components that are very easily accessible. And then from our point of view, it's all cloud-based. So it's built on the Microsoft Azure Fabric. It is available globally. We are as far as we're concerned, the most open and most trusted cloud provider. We can point you towards the Microsoft Trust Center to understand that. We work with regulators all the way around the world to make sure that from a financial services perspective, what we're building is something that you can consume because your regulators will engage with that. I think a finish there. AI and the cognitive services will drive better relationships between banks and their customers. And from our point of view, it is aimed at getting better outcomes for both. I will ask you if you get a chance. I've tried playing this video before. Videos in presentations don't always work. So if you do get a chance, go have a look at the Seeing AI project. If you can take a photo of the URL, well and good. If not, go to your favorite search engine. We would recommend Bing. Do a search for Seeing AI. This is a great initiative. So it was just a quick view of it. We have a colleague at Microsoft, Shakib Sheikh. Shakib is a software engineer. He got together with a bunch of other engineers inside Microsoft to solve a problem that was really personal to him. He understood how cognitive services were working, and he worked with a couple of partners of ours, Pivot Glass is one, to build a service that allowed him to understand the world that was going on around him. So the Pivot head glasses look at the world around him and use things like the facial recognition, the sentiment analysis, the translation services, and convert that to audio for him and tell him what's going on around the world he's in. When you look at the video, while it's a bit of one of those ones that gets you quite emotional at times, because it's a fantastic outcome for one of our colleagues, but think about how those technologies could be used in a different case. Yeah? From our point of view, Microsoft has a room here in the conference, the Blackfriars room, where our folks are there if you want to have a chat about any more of this. And that's it.